So I think the idea for both of those businesses is perfectly honorable. So in other words, I want to separate for just a second. Let's take Uber as an example. Let's separate for a second the idea of creating a ride sharing company like that. So what I think Uber does, or the idea of Uber and Lyft and other companies like that, what they're really doing is just reducing transaction costs. So there are people who need rides. There are other people who would like to be able to give rides. They have dead assets. Maybe, they have a car that sits in the driveway all day and doesn't do anything. So these are assets that can be used. There are other people who would like to be able to use them. And so these kinds of companies, and there are lots of others. I think Airbnb is another, but there are lots of companies like this. And what they're effectively doing is enabling more mutually voluntary and mutually beneficial transactions, lowering the transaction costs to enable more of those to happen. So as more of that happens, yes, I think those are positive sum transactions, and I think they can be perfectly honorable. Where it gets a little murkier, and this is why I asked you that question, are we talking specifically about Uber and its practices, or just sort of the idea of these kinds of companies? When it comes to the company Uber itself, or to any company, there I think we actually need to take a look at the particulars. So are there people who are coming in as employees? Well, I don't know exactly what we're supposed to call Uber, people who work for Uber anymore. I don't know, they're subcontractors or employees. That makes a legal distinction, but the people who are working with Uber, or driving the cars for Uber, are they signing up for something that they didn't realize they were signing up for example? Did they believe they were getting something, and in fact, they're getting something different? Or the people who are hailing the rides and the people who ride in the cars, did they think, and were there some deceptive practices going on that led them to believe they would get some kind of service, or maybe be charged at some level, and something else happened? The answer to those kinds of questions, I think, those should influence our judgment about whether the particular practices of a place like Uber or any other company are actually moral or honorable, as I call it. But I think in general, those kinds of businesses, I think they can certainly be honorable.